And welcome, everyone, to our weekly chat here on the Bleacher Report app, where we talk about the AP Top 25 poll, My Power 37, our Player of the Week, Team of the Week games to watch, and we take your questions. I do want to get on a little bit of a soapbox here at the beginning before we break down the poll. A lot of shakeup. Obviously, we had, I think it was a combined 20 losses in the top 25 over Feast Week. I just want to talk about Feast Week for a second. I love it. Now, obviously, that was a term used or coined at ESPN when I was there, not by me, but when I was there many years ago. And I think it's one of the best weeks of the season outside of the NCAA tournament. So I think you could go conference tournament week, NCAA tournament 1, conference tournament week, which they call champ week, and then feast week. I am a traditionalist in the sense that I love the 3 games in 3 days or 3 games in 4 days. Or in the case of the Players Era event, it was 3 games over 5 or 6 days because it started on Tuesday, ended late Saturday night. I know that in this current era, a lot of schools prefer at most maybe a 2-game event. We saw Dan Hurley of UConn say no more MTEs for him, no more 3 games. He just wants single games, either home and homes or neutral sites. And that's great for him. You know, to each his or her own, okay? But there is just a tiny elite group, and I can probably put it on one hand. It's Kansas, Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and now I guess we'll go to UConn, Michigan State. Really 6 that have the ability to say, this is what we're doing, and we don't care what the rest of you are doing. Majority of teams, they need events like this to get quality non-conference games. Most of these places, even the Alabamas of the world, okay, aren't getting true home and homes. Can they get the neutral sites? Sure. Alabama, as we saw, played Purdue in Birmingham. Illinois in Birmingham. They did just play Purdue a couple weeks ago at Mackey, but they played Illinois in Birmingham. Illinois took on Arkansas in Kansas City. A lot of schools don't want to go to Illinois because it's probably a loss. So they would prefer a neutral site. So right off the bat, you're having to go with a neutral site game, not your true home and home. So I love the format. I hope the Maui Invitational and Battle for Atlantis and the Players Era continue with 3 games, because there are 3 games that schools like Dayton and Memphis aren't going to get if they do their normal scheduling. It's just not going to happen. So I hope it stays. I know it's expensive, but I think it's great for the sport. All right, let's break down the AP Top 25 poll. And by the way, I wrote more about this at ncaa.com. It's on my feed, and you can check it out. Kansas, Auburn, Tennessee, Kentucky, Marquette. I went Auburn, Kansas. The reason being, I know Kansas didn't lose. I'm taking it from my perspective, and I'm not alone, in that I look at this like Auburn beat Iowa State. So right there on your screen, that's a top 10 team on a neutral court. Then they took down, in the second game, North Carolina, which entering the week was at 12. Then they beat Memphis, as you see on your screen, 16. They already won at Houston, okay? So they've got essentially 4, based on this poll right here. Let's just take this poll. They've got Iowa State at 6, Houston at 17, Memphis at 16, Carolina at 20. Kansas has the neutral site win over Duke, so that's 9, that's 1. Did beat Michigan State, but not on your screen, and that was a neutral. And they beat North Carolina, so that's 20. So they have 2 top 25 wins based on what we're seeing right here. whereas Auburn has 4. I just think Auburn's better. I mean, in terms of the top 4 lines, they're both, if the season 1 month in, they both would be 1 seeds. And I firmly believe that Auburn would be the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament if it started right now. We saw the net that came out today. Auburn was in the top 3. John Broom, there you go, the net rankings. Thank you. Caitlin's on it, our producer. So Auburn's 2. Kansas is 9 in the net. A lot of that has to do with what I just said. Auburn, 4 wins. So let's look at the net right here. Auburn beat well, I guess it'd be more of the cumulative because Kansas on the net has the win over Duke at 4. By the way, Auburn at Duke this week. So that would really catapult, if Auburn wins at Duke versus Kansas beating Duke on a neutral and then doesn't lose before next Monday. I can't remember if they play this weekend. And if Kansas didn't lose this week, and they're actually at Creighton, but if they don't lose that game, I think you'd have to flip them in the AP poll next week for sure. So there you go. There's your top 5. That's my only grievance. Marquette's clearly the best team in the Big East right now. Iowa State had the 1 blip against Auburn and Maui. It was actually Janai Broom tipping. Broom was the MVP in Maui. He was phenomenal. And we'll get to my rationale for Team of the Week and Player of the Week here in a moment. But look what he did against Memphis in the championship game, 21 points, 4 blocks. What a great week for Janai Broom. Gonzaga at 7. So here's where you have to start clipping some stuff, okay? Because this is my problem with the poll. And again, I'm not a voter. I was a voter in my previous life as a newspaper person. Once I got to ESPN, Dick Vitale always had the vote. So I have not been a voter probably for 20 years. More than that. Yeah, I guess 20 years. No. Since, I guess, like 24 years. Dating myself. But I've not been a voter in a long time. Gonzaga lost to West Virginia. They go 2-1 in Atlantis. They shouldn't be 7 right now. In the poll, not the net, not a seed chart, in the poll. Purdue at 8, Duke 9, Alabama 10, Wisconsin at 11, Oregon at 12. Okay. I'm going to look right here into the camera, okay? I believe there's 65 AP Top 25 voters. In what world did you watch that game the other night? And this is a snapshot. This is a week of the AP Top 25 poll. Nate Biddle with the tip-in for Oregon to beat Alabama in the championship game in the Players Era event in Las Vegas. And then you see that on Saturday night, so you got time. You got 24 hours. Polls are usually due Sunday night. You still have Alabama ahead of Oregon? Alabama's already lost to Purdue. Help me out here. Why is Oregon behind Alabama? Not on the seed line. That is a different conversation. This is, again, the problem with the poll. Oregon should be ahead of Alabama. Oregon should be in the top 10. Wisconsin, undefeated, 11, great. Florida, undefeated, playing great basketball right now, 13, no issue. Cincinnati, we'll learn more about them coming up. Haven't been truly tested, but undefeated. Baylor at 15. We'll get to mine in a minute. I can live with it. Memphis at 16. Totally proved to me they're a top 25 team. The one loss was to Auburn in the championship game. They beat UConn, knocked off Michigan State. They're going to play both Mississippi and Ole Miss coming up. Excuse me, Ole Miss and Mississippi State coming up, and they're at Virginia. So 3 more chances for them of Power 5 games. Houston drops to 17. Pitt, I like them at 18. I appreciate paying attention here. The win over Ohio State gets them in. Illinois 19. By the way, Illinois and Oregon, and this is not me being a Big Ten homer or something. I knew it. They were better than we were preseason projected. I had them in my top 25 almost the whole time, if I'm not mistaken. Carolina 20. Get them out. Okay. Disregard I'm wearing Carolina blue right now. They went 2-2 in Hawaii. They should not be in the top 25 right now. I saw them beat Hawaii. I saw them beat Dayton after being way down. Saw them lose to Auburn and then lose to Michigan State. So they've lost 2 in a row. Why are they 20? Get them out. Oklahoma won the battle for Atlantis. I'm so glad they're there. A&M, no problem. Good wins in Vegas. Ole Miss went 1 and lost at the buzzer to Purdue. Fine with that. San Diego State, glad they're getting some positive pub after their showing, knocking off Houston. Oh, by the way, they beat Houston 24-17. And UConn. Why is UConn ranked right now? Why are they ranked? They lost 3 games in a row in Hawaii. Don't give me they came back and beat Maryland Eastern Shore. That does zippo. Prior to Maui, they beat nobody. Now, the next 3 games, we're going to know where UConn is. Home Baylor, I'll be there Wednesday night. At Texas. And then the following Saturday, I'll be there at the Garden for their game against Gonzaga. If they go 2-1, 3-0, they'll shoot right back in up top. That's fine. That's what it should be. But right off the bat here in the poll, and you can clip this, Oregon should be ahead of Alabama. That's number 1. San Diego State should be ahead of Houston. That's number 2. And Carolina and UConn, after what happened in Maui, should not be ranked this week. Carolina plays Alabama this week at home. Win that? Fine, get back in. UConn beat Baylor and lose at Texas or sweep the week? Fine, get back in. The net rankings, okay, pause it right there. Pause it right there. Net rankings, okay? Illinois at 10. Cincinnati, as we talked about. Okay, you don't see North Carolina or UConn in the top 13. Now, if we can, please, go to the next page of the net rankings. I think we have it. Top 25 of the net rankings. Where's North Carolina? Where's UConn? So you can't even give me the argument that, oh, in the net rankings, they should be in here. No, they should not. 2 schools in here that I'm glad are getting some pub in the net are Irvine at 24, St. Mary's at 25. So Carolina's 26 in the net, and a lot of that has to do with who they've played. At Kansas, playing Auburn. So they've played a good schedule. So that has helped them. UConn's at 39 because they played nobody before Maui. They squeeze in this Maryland Eastern Shore game after. That's why they're at 39. So before we move on, let's just take a look at where I got here. So I had Auburn at 1, Kansas at 2, Tennessee at 3, Marquette at 4, Kentucky at 5. So I have the same top 5, just tweaking it. Iowa State 6. I got Oregon at 7. I got Duke at 8. I got Florida at 9. I got Purdue at 10. Then I got Alabama at 11, behind Oregon. I got Wisconsin at 12. I got Gonzaga at 13, lost to West Virginia. I got Cincinnati at 14, because they haven't played anywhere yet. Illinois at 15. Michigan. Okay. Michigan at 16. Michigan won the Fort Myers tournament by beating Virginia Tech and Xavier. Dusty May's doing an incredible job. Got the right transfers. I got Memphis at 17, so right there. I got Baylor at 18, Oklahoma at 19, Ole Miss at 20, Arizona State 7-1. They beat St. Mary's in New Mexico. I'd like to see the Sun Devils in there. San Diego State 22. Drake at 23. Drake won the tournament down in Orlando, in Charleston previous weekend. Ben McCullum doing a great job coming over from Northwest Missouri State. Won 4 titles in D2. Texas A&M at 24, Pitt at 25. Got Michigan State at 26. I got Texas at 27. I got Maryland at 28. I got Utah State at 29. Dayton at 30. Very impressed with the Flyers. Could have gone 2-1 or 3-0. Who knows? They probably wouldn't have beaten Auburn, but they had 2 chances in their first 2 games against Carolina. And then Iowa State, they had leads, blew it, and then they ended up beating UConn. Louisville 31, lost in the final to Oklahoma and Atlantis. West Virginia 32, St. Mary's 33, Xavier 34, Butler 35. Bulldogs won a tournament down in Tempe, beating Northwestern and Mississippi State. Georgia 36, Mike White doing a good job, and Clemson at 37. Of course, I dropped out UConn, North Carolina, Indiana, Houston, Ohio State, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Creighton, Penn State, Texas Tech, BYU, and Vanderbilt. Thought about St. John's, DePaul, and Rhode Island. Before we get to my awards, the net rankings. This is one of many metrics. Okay, you've got the net rankings. You've got, which all deal with, offensive and defensive efficiency. So it is a analytical tool. So you've got net rankings, you've got KenPom, you've got KPI, you've got the ESPN BPI, you've got Bart Torvik, so the Torvik rankings, all of those metrics that deal in some form or fashion with offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency. Some have margin. There are different weight put on home, road, neutral. Later in the season, we'll get into the quads. Quad 1 is top 75. And then it goes on from that, 1, 2, 3, 4. You get more weight, if you will, for a road win in quad 1, then a neutral win in quad 1, and then obviously a home win. These are sorting tools for the selection committee. The difference with each metric, data point, versus the AP Top 25 poll is all these rankings that are metric-based are computer-generated, okay? The AP Top 25 is completely subjective. That is, all of us, whether you're doing your own rankings like me, my Power 37, anyone else that does this, or you're a voter in the AP Top 25. That is a subjective ranking, not a data ranking, okay? The men's and women's basketball committees do not use the AP poll when they decide who gets in the tournament and where they are seated. They do use the computer-generated rankings. So why do we have these? To be honest, it's sort of window dressing. It helps, again, a sorting tool. I remember when I was either working in newspapers or at ESPN, it was a way to say, okay, which games are we going to feature? Which games are we going to have on a roundup? You would take the ranked teams and use them as your guide. Could you easily do this with a net ranking? Yes. The other key thing is within the metrics, I'll just speak to the net for a second. Some of these rankings start with preseason information. Others, like the net, wait until the games actually are played. So that's why no net rankings come out until a month in. We are now essentially a month in. Season started on November 4th. It's December 2nd. So we've got a month worth of data. That's why you see here UC Irvine at 24. UC Irvine's undefeated in the Big West. Once they get into the Big West, their net ranking is going to fall some. Will it drop completely? No, if they keep winning. It'll drop because of the competition. That's also why some of them will climb in the rankings as they play better teams. So that's your lesson there. Let's go to my player of the week and team of the week. So I wrestled with this. I went with TJ Bamba of Oregon. I wanted Oregon and Auburn to be recognized. Could I have just had all Auburn? Yeah, because I could have Auburn as a team of the week and Janai Broome as my player of the week because, as you saw on your screen earlier, Broome was phenomenal in Maui. And I think he's right now the leader for the Naismith Award 1 month in. But Oregon, undefeated, a great week in Vegas. And Bamba was the MVP of the Players Era event. He averaged 17 points over 3 games. I mean, Keyshawn Bartholomew, he was stellar. Nate Biddle had the tip in and had a great week. But Bamba probably was the most consistent. He got MVP. So I thought Oregon and Auburn should have been recognized in some form or fashion. Games of the week. This was really difficult to choose just 10. We have the ACC SEC Challenge this week. That is providing a lot of great content. The best one is number 1, Auburn at Duke. Auburn comes in. You've got Broome versus Flagg, among many. There's going to be so much talent on the floor there Wednesday night at Cameron. So I think that's the best game of the week. Number 2, maybe not as brand name, but Marquette at Iowa State. This could be this part of the Big East Big 12 series. So you got ACC, SEC, and Big East Big 12. Used to be this week would be ACC Big 10. That is no more. So you've got Marquette at Iowa State. And ACC, SEC is an ESPN deal with SEC Network and ACC Network. Big East Big 12 is an ESPN and Fox deal. When the games are at a Big 12 site, those would lean ESPN. When they're at a Big East site, that would lead Fox. So Marquette, Iowa State, that could be an Elite 8 game, Final Four. I told you about Alabama, Carolina, great SEC, ACC matchup. Baylor, UConn will be there Wednesday night. That's a Big East, Big 12. Kentucky versus Gonzaga in Seattle. Really looking forward to that one. The Wildcats obviously have played very well. Have scored over 100 points 4 times. The Zags, after going 2-1 in Atlanta, have to be a little disappointed. Second Marquette game of the week here, Wisconsin-Marquette. About a month ago, you'd say, maybe a walk for Marquette. Now the Badgers 8-0, and John Tonje is the first-team All-American as we speak. So you got Tonje and Cam Jones, 2 big-time talents right there. Another Badger game. Again, I wouldn't have had this on my list a month ago. Michigan-Wisconsin. At this moment, that's 2 undefeated teams. So great game here early in the week in the Big Ten. Kentucky at Clemson. That is a ACC-SEC matchup, so 2 Kentucky games this week. What about that week? Kentucky's got to go and play at Clemson first, then go out to Seattle because that Kentucky-Gonzaga game is on the weekend. So, real big game for Clemson. Their one loss was to Boise. It's a big game for them. Kansas at Creighton. Creighton didn't play as well in Vegas, but they weren't healthy. So there's a huge opportunity for Creighton and the Big East. Then you got Pitt at Mississippi State. Mississippi State, I know Bulldog fans are kind of mad that maybe I dropped them out after losing this week to Butler. But they did lose to an unranked team. So I think this is another huge opportunity. Pitt's schedule, by the way, is sneaky good in terms of it's going to help them get in. You saw in the net, they're already in the top 10 in the net. They've played Wisconsin, lost, won at Ohio State. Now they're playing at Mississippi State. I mean, there's Pitt at 5. I mean, I think Pitt's going to be one of the top 3 teams in the ACC. The ACC's struggling, and Pitt's going to be one of the top 3. No question to me. All right, so Maryland deserves to be ranked. I ranked them. Not here. Where will Wisconsin finish in the Big Ten this year? I mean, projecting right now, they should be in the top 4. And I would say Michigan, same thing. And Michigan should have been ranked. Michigan State got snubbed. I have them just outside. I mean, you know, the Carolina win was huge. They had to do it in overtime. How is Tennessee still above Kentucky? I guess you could argue once again that Tennessee had the better week because they played better competition and they crushed Baylor in one of those games over the last week. Where does Penn State stand? Did get upset in their tournament. I think they are sneaky good and really could be an NCAA tournament team. You know, Illinois should be 17. I have them higher. Why is Bama below Duke? Competition probably, but Oregon should be ahead of Alabama. Predictions for Iowa State Marquette. The game is at Iowa State, and it's almost impossible to win at Hilton. So I'm going Iowa State. Drake, Rhode Island, and Columbia. Columbia undefeated. Surprise of the Ivy so far. I think Drake should be, if not in the top 25 right there. Rhode Island and Columbia need to play better competition, but great job by Archie Miller and Jim Ingles so far. Both teams undefeated. All 3 of those undefeated. Duke, Auburn. Man, I'm going to lean Duke, even though Auburn is the better team, because this is the first game for Auburn after Maui. Cameron gives you 5 points. I think it'll be a close game. I'm going to go Carolina, Alabama. I'm very tempted to go with Alabama here over Carolina. Who in the bottom half of the poll could win it all? Ooh, interesting. Well, I don't think UConn can. So if we're going bottom half, we're going somewhere between, 13 to 25? In that question, Illinois could at 19. You know, Memphis depth is an issue, but they're really good. And I guess Baylor. I'm not sold on Houston. That's a good question. I was so impressed with Memphis and Maui. Penny Hardaway is doing a great job with this crew. If they just stay together, Haggerty, Hunter, the big guys of Cisse and Danger. Does Maryland get recognition if they beat Ohio State? Yes, and they should be in the poll. Do I agree that Duke's ranking? It's okay. I'm not, I think the SEC and the Big 12 will be the toughest 2 leagues. UNC does have the toughest as a tough schedule. I think the toughest is probably Auburn or Alabama. Auburn's still going to play Purdue and Ohio State after this Duke game. I think Gonzaga beats Kentucky and Seattle. I think Wisconsin will split the week, beat Michigan, lose to Marquette. St. Mary's should have been right there on the cusp of the top 25, somewhere in that range. You saw they were 25 in the net ranking, so they were getting that. All right, so here's my week, if anyone cares. Chicago Studio Big Ten Network tomorrow night. Check out our games there. Wednesday, Baylor. Saturday, USC at Washington on Big Ten Network, and Sunday, UCLA at Oregon before I talk to you again next Monday. Check out all our content on here, the Bleacher Report app, NCAA.com, March Madness, MBB, You can follow me at the Andy Katz on X, on Blue Sky. I'll give you that one. On Instagram, it's the real Andy Katz. And on Blue Sky, if you just type in my name, it's at katsandy.bsky.social. So at katsandy for Blue Sky. I think people should be going to Blue Sky as well. Diversify your social media. So you got Blue Sky, you got X, you got Instagram, and of course we got our accounts through NCAA and March Madness on Facebook as well, and YouTube. So all over the place. All right, appreciate everyone. And it's gonna be a little chilly this week. After I can't really complain after Hawaii, but it will be. Thanks for engaging, and we will talk again next Monday. Thanks, everyone.